Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hello, it's Gemma, and this is episode 275 of the new series of the Cognitive Podcast. Your comments are very welcome. Please feel free to comment on the blog at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com, or you can comment on our group on Ravelry. I am getting a comment about these recordings, the sound getting louder and softer. I cannot figure it out. I am trying so hard to park my recorder and not to move, but apparently it's making quite an exaggerated noise in places. I have no idea why. I'm trying a new solution even as we speak. We'll see how that goes. In the meantime, in the warm thanks, I know this sounds odd, but I want to thank the United States women's hockey team, the Olympic gold medal winners, for being a class act. I was so impressed by their captain answering questions from the press, saying, I am not going to represent the reasons for someone else's behavior. That's not what we're here to do. And then she redirected the discussion to celebrating her wonderful teammates and to celebrating the fact that both the men's and the women's teams won gold. It was just a marvelous, classy thing to do. I was so impressed by this. I also want to thank all my listeners because all your comments, including things like, hey, the sound is uneven, are really helpful. So to both of you, no, I'm just kidding. But to all my listeners, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. You know, I've been doing this since, I think, 2008 or 2009. And you try hard to get the quality right. But I do not use particularly fancy equipment. And I've gotten by. And I've even recorded in the car, driving to work, when I worked in the prison. Thank you for hanging in with me with all of that. Because, you know, it's been an exciting ride trying to be a psychologist. I say this because when I was in graduate school for psychology, I was writing websites to help pay my tuition. Believe it or not, one of my early ones was for the United Nations. I've done some very strange things when I look back at my life. And I realized at that point, I made a decision that I could specialize in doing that and just give up working as a psychologist or a psychologist student at the time. And I made the decision to be a psychologist. And every now and then I get this reminder that, in the words of Dr. Leonard McCoy, a fictional character from Star Trek, I'm a doctor, not name one. In this case, I'm a doctor, not a computer scientist. And so I really do appreciate how many quirks you all have had to listen to through the years and that you stay with me. The quirk tonight as I record this is I'm wiped out. It is Thursday, March 5th, 2026 at 7:24 p.m. at night. It's been a pretty exciting week. It's great because the politics this week have been so bad that I can't even talk about them. You know, I'm always in this battle about that. How do you not talk about this stuff? I got nothing. Although I still admire the USA women's hockey team. I think they were amazing. I also, by the way, want to thank Stanley Tucci for taking them to dinner in Milan, Italy. Bene, va bene. Seriously, Mr. Tucci, va bene. In the meantime, I want to thank my listeners, as always, and my communities on Finch, on Reddit, on the ground, in real time, in the Santa Clarita and Antelope Valleys, and most of all in this listening group. If you look at the show notes, you will see my birds They are celebrating together in one of their birdhouses, done in pink because I can. And they are celebrating my half birthday because, as you can see, Finch actually notices that, which is good because I went to Chipotle and I was supposed to get a free drink for my half birthday, and they said no. I still can't figure that one out. So there are my birds celebrating my half birthday. I also want to point out that Cognitive Fiber Retreat 12, the information thread, there's a link in the show notes, and it is scheduled for November 7th, 2026. Please mark your calendars. And please continue to check the thread. In the meantime, there's information on how to pay there, the whopping $10. And there's also the link for what Loretta 1031 wants you to know about her collecting donations for her crocheting club for school kids. In the meantime, you may be saying, hey Gemma, what's on your hooks and needles? Well, the stash toss is holding steady at 16 skeins in, 34 skeins out, which is nice. I am definitely working on upping the out count. I have been resisting the urge to buy, and that's a long story. It's really about vestuary, which is, I have this beautiful water green yarn, and I realized I really could have made a full-size sweater out of it or jumper instead of making the little vest. And I have yarn set aside in rose-colored yarn, I think it's called English Rose from Rios, to make a vest. And yet I went back and tried to redo this one. And I bought 2 extra skeins, and I really could have made a whole sweater. So I didn't. So I'm sort of kicking myself, and I almost said, well, let's just buy 4 more skeins or 3 more skeins, the heck with it, and make that full-size sweater. And then I realized I have tons of sweaters worths in my stash, and I should not do that. Having said that, very little work on the Coral Strange Brew. I did hit 18 inches. I'm debating if I want to go to 19 inches on the body, but the Cocoa Strange Brew, which was my Romeo sweater, which broke my habit of using scraps, except I did. The scraps are in the yoke, and that's how I was getting around my Romeo thing that I want to knit with scraps. Okay, having said all my lame excuses, the Coral Strange Brew, I wanted to do the body a little longer because the Cocoa one has an 18-inch body. To be honest, as I'm wearing the Cocoa one, it is stretching very nicely. Also, I am still weaving in ends on it. Every day I go and weave in 5 ends, except I keep forgetting. So I'm just about done on that, to be honest. But I was going to do that first and then do the washing and a little bit of just shaping on between 2 towels. All this is to say, I don't think I'm going to do 19 inches on the Coral Strange Brew body. I think we're just fine, and I'm going to stop where I am. Meanwhile, that means I have to assemble the body and then start working on the pattern for the yoke. I have a lot of ideas for that, but I'm struggling because every year at Halloween I want a really harvest-colored Halloween sweater, and I don't make it, and this could be the one, and yet here I am, finding reasons not to make it, to go with other themes. Yeah, this would be because I am in the club for Doodle Knits, their monthly club, and of course that means every month I'm getting this pile of cute motifs. Yeah, it's a lot of inspiration. I have to say too, my second collector's book came from Fidelity, and I'm having such a blast. I really am. It's great to have all the cards in these books. I still have to go through and do a little arranging, but it's really easy and fun to do. Having said that, let's move on to my Dizzy Laser Sock number 2. There's a picture of it there just past the waist yarn for the heel. This is the second sock. I did start it, and then I lost control. I love it, and I've been knitting on it like a mad woman. So I'm just about 5 rows from the toe where I will change to that brown yarn again. Then I will do the heel. And then I will start my second pair of socks with these 2 yarns where I will reverse it. I will do the cuff and the toe and the heel in that beautiful yellow, which is, I believe, Laser Sheep, yes. And I will do the body of it in the beautiful yarn from Dizzy Blondes, the Lammy-Toes. And I realize I'm probably going to do this one as a blueberry waffle sock because that brown yarn, you can see it's faintly striped. It's very beautiful, but I just think it would look amazing in the body of a blueberry waffle sock. So everybody stay tuned on that one. Vestuary 2026. I decided to give you the full view of the steeks because they are beautiful. I did get myself up to the end of the steeks where I start shaping the neckline and realized it was time to shape. I'm still using the vest pattern from Ann Budd's The Knitter's Handy Book of Patterns. This is not a good one really to use for this. I have learned that. Now, there's nothing wrong with this vest pattern, but it's made in pieces. I think I want to look up a vest pattern that does include steeking. But I'm so glad I'm doing this because I got to the end, I started shaping the shoulder, the top, and it tells you to bind off. And I thought, now what do? I bound off. And that meant that I simply bound off across a steek as well and said that is that, and figured out how to weave in the end so that when I cut the steek, the bind off doesn't crash and burn on the main body of the sweater. So having done that, I am now on the last 3 rows of both front and back, and I am knitting them side to side. I decided, okay, this pattern, this works, I'm going to do this. And I will finish the neckline, and then I will go, hopefully, into doing the collar. And no, I won't. Wait, yes, I will. Yes, I will, because I already bound off the steeks. So I can do the collar, and then I will go back, cut the steeks, and pick up for the armholes, and of course, tack down the steeks. Not in that order, so a little research is coming. What would I tell you about this? So far, so good. So far, so good. Took a little research, but it's a skill that I've enjoyed learning. I like the way the vest looks. Now that yarn looks beat up, let's be honest. There's a picture of the front and the back of a steek. The back is where you can see the raised ridges for the purled stitches. And I'm not done learning yet. One thing I do want you to realize, when you have an edge, and I'm going to steek, and that will leave me with edges. When you have those edges and you have that purling row, that purl row, the function of that is it will make the yarn flip over. So the edge of that steek, after I've cut it, both edges, will curl around and be hidden. Okay, so it's going to be important to figure out how to tack them down so they don't curl around and promptly loosen themselves up and fall apart. But this is a pure wool yarn, so it should be sticky enough to withstand what I'm doing. The next research is how you do that tacking down part. Anybody who has any recommendations, I'm open to suggestions. But so far, I've kind of enjoyed this. It really makes vest knitting kind of brainless. I think I do need to investigate a pattern that accounts for steeking a little more than Ann Budd's pattern, but her pattern is not about that. Her pattern is about knitting in pieces. So in all fairness, it's a great pattern. I've made a lot of vests from it. This is a different direction, and I don't want to hold her pattern responsible for any challenges I've run into. The pattern was not intended to support this, and I do recommend this pattern to people making V-neck vests all the time. In the meantime, I think that's everything that I want you to know about this, and I really want you to see the pictures of the steeks. And the picture on the left there in the show notes is looking at the right side. The pictures on the right is looking at the back side. Meanwhile, the Prawn Agnes, oh, I'm having so much fun with that. Every now and then, you just got to throw it all to the wind and knit a big clunky sweater in a heavyweight yarn. This is a size 5, a bulky weight or a chunky weight. And I currently, right now, I believe I'm on the 5th or 6th skein. That is to say, I had 4 skeins of the prawn colored, Prawn But Not Forgotten, the Opig yarn from Oink Pigments. And I got down to 2 skeins left, and I saved them for the arms. And meanwhile, at the bottom of the body, I started to do a fade pattern using the Prawn But Not Forgotten remainder along with a skein of the Ovary Action. I love it. It's kind of wonderful looking. And so I said, okay, a skein for each arm. And partway down the arms, close to the cuffs, I will again do some of the fading just to match what happened at the bottom in the ribbing. But, you know, it is a beautiful thing to grab some size 11 needles in my case and just crank away on the Agnes sweater. This is designed by somebody at Quince & Company. It has pockets. I don't bother. I never have. But it's a darn good base pattern for a bulky sweater. And they come together so fast. I don't know why. I guess the size 11 needles, because really size 5 yarn is not that much thicker than a size 4 as far as I can tell. But I'm enjoying it immensely, and hopefully I will have something to show you. I'm not quite at the elbow of the first sleeve because I'm not working on it with the dedication I'd like to have. Meanwhile, nothing in the quilting department, nothing spinning. Let's get on to a strategy. I don't know how many times I've said this in therapy. I'm not even sure how many times I've said it on the podcast. You do have to know what you love. When people are depressed, they don't reward themselves. And I spend a huge amount of time as a clinician talking to depressed people and trying to get them to determine ways to reward themselves. And let me tell you, when you're depressed, even when your mood is down a little bit, it is really, really hard to get the logic that you must reward yourself a lot. If you want to see this in action, watch a dog trainer. The people who train hardcore, military dogs, service dogs, dogs in shows, television dogs, I mean really more than dog show dogs. If you watch, the trainer carries a treat bag at their hip and they continually have their hand in it and the dog knows where it is. I used to laugh because my German Shepherds would fixate on whichever pocket had the treats. My dogs currently know where the treats are on the kitchen counter. When I let them out of their crates, they don't look at me, they look straight at the treat bag. Okay? Look, even a dog gets it. You need a lot of little rewards. And I've said this over and over, but here's what drives me nutty. That most of my patients don't even know what rewards them. And the other thing is they have really unrealistic ideas about rewards. So every reward has to be big or it doesn't count. So every reward sounds like, I'm going down to Disneyland today. No. Rewards have to come in a huge range. So I know this sounds crazy, but I'm sitting here in the place where I see my patients. And I'm looking at a pile of my rewards, but you might not see them that way. So let's look at my rewards. A cat brush. I reward myself when Minerva jumps in my lap. I allow myself to gently brush her. She can only take so much before her hyperesthesia makes her bite me. But she loves it and she purrs, and she particularly wants to be brushed around her chin and face. Yeah, I know, brushing the cat. How is that a reward? It's soothing. I have my phone. I can always look at pictures or play a little solitaire game. I have a little bag of salted almonds. I can have a handful of almonds. I have my bubbly water. I can have a little bit of that. But also, I can get up and go to the restroom between patients. Believe it or not, that is a reward. That's a relief break. And I get to race down the hall with Minerva running next to me because she has to come to the restroom and protect me. I'm not really sure what she thinks is going on there, that she has to do this, but I don't ask her that question. She's a good cat. The rewards can be things like rubbing my own feet. Currently, I have a new copy of our diagnostic manual, version 5TR, and I am putting special tabs in it. That is a reward. When I have a good day, I put 7 tabs in the DSM, Still going to take me another 2 weeks. Unbelievable. And then I can move on to its little sidekick, the desk reference, and its tabs. But it is rewarding because I look at it and it looks better and I can find things faster when I'm diagnosing. I reward myself with a few minutes on my jigsaw puzzle. I reward myself by petting the animals, by visiting the pony and giving her a carrot, by 5 minutes of weeding out front. Yes, I'm weeding because the rains are over, I think, for the spring. So it's time to rescue the peppermint from the weed bed that should be the peppermint bed. I have a lot of strange rewards. Sometimes I reward myself with a cup of tea. As I'm making the tea, I will probably wipe the counters down. Because why not? I'm stuck there until the tea is finished. So my rewards can very much be about satisfying my sense that I've done a little housework. This week also I'm back to Project Touch-Up, and I've been working on the door frames and the door handles thanks to a suggestion from the Finch app, and it's been quite a week just trying to get through those babies. But that's okay. Project Touch-Up is a bit of a reward because I look at what I've just touched up and it looks so much better. So the rewards are very odd. Rewards can vary wildly from big to small: bubble bath, hot shower, washing my hair, all sorts of stuff, clipping my nails. I did that today after a rather tough patient. It's really odd, the things that will constitute little treats for you. But treats really vary from person to person. And one of the reasons I'm saying this is, as a parenting specialist in psychology, one of the things we find is how parents do not reward their kids, but they're very fast on the punishment. There is a time and a place for withdrawing privileges or goodies. I get that. That's punishment. There is a moment for that. But you don't want to do that a lot because it's not very effective. Okay. All I can say, and I'm not going to go into that whole thing, all I can say is on the positive aspect, you want to teach your kids how to reward themselves, and you do that by setting up rewards for them and teaching them what they have to do to earn a reward. This is an adult skill. When I work with patients, I am going to be rewarded by a paycheck. I know this. Today I saw the dentist again. Oh, I'll talk about it. And at the end of that, I really just wanted to say too much. I'm going to take the rest of the day off. I don't have that many patients today. I decided instead to see my patients, and it was very rewarding. But it really was rewarding because I also get paid for 3 more sessions now instead of using up sick or vacation time. So this is a good thing, this rewarding. And it's really hard to know what rewards you and what rewards your kids and your family members unless you watch them carefully. And it's a good thing to develop, paying attention to these people and seeing what makes them tick. The other interesting thing is they will tell you. You can ask them. And you have to remember that everybody's going to have different rewards. Reading a book, listening to an audiobook, knitting or crocheting, spinning, weaving, dyeing, all our hobbies. I could go on forever. But what rewards me may not reward you, may not reward your kids. So you have to pay attention to what people want and use it to motivate them. Motivating people with the promise of a reward is much more successful than punishment. There is a ton of research on this. The other thing is the slot machine logic. I just want to put that in, that humans, believe it or not, we find unpredictable rewards much more emotionally satisfying than predictable rewards. This is why slot machines are successful. So when you have your people and your family and your friends and all that treating you well and doing what they need to do, you do want to pull a random reward out of thin air from time to time and say, hey, listen, everybody did their homework this week. I thought we would all have this kind of treat. Okay, so don't forget those random rewards, but also remember, you have to pay attention to what actually rewards another person. It may not be what you like. Oh, shoot. Well, I didn't run the race last weekend because I wasn't trained because of these bloomin' windstorms we've had all winter long. And that's okay because I still paid the money and that goes to a good cause. students up and running in Santa Clarita. It's the running group my kid ran with for years. But I thought, I still wish I had done something that felt like a charity. So I celebrated the day of the run by donating blood instead. And this was very interesting. Hey, Gemma, you mean you don't donate blood? No. I have not donated in about 40 years because I lived in Europe and I was on a farm a lot with a horse. So you weren't supposed to donate. Turns out they said that no longer counts. So to my surprise, my son came home last week talking about how he donated blood at his college. And I said, I should look into that, and found, yes, they have forgiven me. I can donate blood. So instead of the run, I donated blood on Sunday morning. It was a really interesting experience, and here's how you do it. You download the application from the Red Cross. It's called Blood Donor. Very easy on the iPhone. I believe they also have it for the Android platform. You download it. It will help you schedule a donation. If you work your way through it, there are links that explain everything you need to know. And so I scheduled an appointment at a local church that was doing blood drives every week in February, and I guess March 1st. And I went to do it. When you get there, there is a rapid survey, and on the app it will say, do you want to do the survey? The answer is yes. I tried to do it by computer at the donor site, and it was just a lot of information and felt like a lot. Now, honestly, no. Once you've done it once, you're going to kind of get the feel for it and what your answers are. But they have to go through it and ask you questions. Like it said, have you ever been pregnant? The answer was yes. And they said, yeah, there's a rare bacteria or something. No, that's not a problem for me. So they will check some of your answers when you get to the site. Don't worry about it. Just answer honestly. So you go on, you make your appointment, you fill out the survey when they send you the link to fill it out. You go, that takes care of a lot of the paperwork and such. And then it takes about maybe 10 minutes to donate your pint. And it was very satisfying. I walked out, they had a low-carb alternative that I could eat as a snack, and bottled water in plastic. Oh well, I had some of that. I walked out feeling pretty good, and I went and caught the train just to have a day down in Glendale, down at the mall, because I just wanted that. But yeah, donating blood, very easy. Now, when you donate and you have the app, you have a thing on the app called a donor card. When you get the app, it will not be completed. You have to donate before they can fill out that information. So I donated on Sunday. My donor information, I got an email yesterday on Wednesday saying they got my donation and were processing it. And then today on my donor card in the app, my donor ID number and my blood type showed up. And a lot of really helpful information like when I'm next eligible to donate blood, and also how I can donate the other types like platelets and whatnot. So that was very, very satisfying. And that's the Blood Donor app, and it's from the Red Cross. And you have to go to your app store to get it. And yeah, I recommend it. I should mention you prepare for all this really by hydrating yourself well. And about 2 hours after I donated, I suddenly began to drink liquids like a fish. I just could not get enough. It was a really great experience, and I do recommend it. Not surprisingly, there is a severe blood shortage in my area right now, so they're really campaigning hard for it, and it's a good idea. In the meantime, you can see the links for my upcoming races. The next one is the Sugar Daddy 5K on June 20th, so I have a lot of prep time there. Ha ha ha, famous last words. And I have the usual links for donating old medals and running shoes. In the fluffy books, I finished The Cat Who Saved the Library, which I loved, and The Retired Assassin's Guide to Orchid Hunting, which I loved. I cannot wait for the next books in those series. I don't know if The Cat Who Saved the Library series can have a third book. I really feel like that author's done what they can do. Nonetheless, I am listening to We'll Prescribe You a Cat, which is pretty eclectic, and I'm enjoying it. I do have the sequel, We'll Prescribe You Another Cat, and they've just announced a third book coming out in a few months. And I think it's called the Kokoro Cat Clinic. It's a very interesting series. Again, it's a little bit out there, but it's intriguing. Also, when you get a book like this, the premise of every chapter in this is give somebody a cat and their life improves. And that's not always true. So when I read a thing like this, I think, oh no, is this going to be some kind of fad? Everybody's going to get a cat now, and they shouldn't. Turns out they don't do that in the book. They do prescribe a cat in every chapter. But sometimes the cat does its job and they take it back. It's a very interesting thing. The first chapter is not representative. In the first chapter, the prescriber wants the patient to keep the cat, so he sets it up to sound very desperate. But don't let that turn you off. I almost stopped reading at that point. And I would say don't get turned off by that. It's an interesting book. I'll let you know how it goes. I'm also reading a spin-off book by Jodi Taylor, the author of the wonderful St. Mary's Chronicles of the Time-Traveling Historians. And she has a spin-off with these two characters that are just wonderful, Small Hope and Pennyroyal. So I'm reading the first of that spin-off series, The Ballad of Small Hope. And Pennyroyal, I know there's a sequel to it that I believe I even have, but I just started it. I'm listening to it also, and I'm enjoying it. Something I really like, well, the blood donor app for the Red Cross, as I've told you, because it made me really happy. And it's making me very, very happy now to have it completing itself and helping me schedule my next donation, which I think is April 26th. Also, I was rolling around online, and there it was, the recipe for the easy crochet scrunchie. And you can tap on that image and download it and blow it up if you want to see it. This is a classic for crocheters. Every teenage girl when I was young, except me, made these. You just get a plain old elastic hairband and you crochet around it to make it look floral. And the more you fold it in your hair around your ponytail, the more interesting it looks. Everybody should have this recipe, so there it is. Also, this is one of those charity fair things. Get a bunch of scrunchies at a CVS. Get a hook out, use up all your scraps, make these scrunchies, sell them, give them out as party favors, whatever you want to do. I also still have the link to my bundle on Ravelry of patterns for ice resistance materials, hats, badges, and whatnot. And the links so that you can donate to the people impacted by ice and to the Immigration Law Center of Minnesota. And you can also find a link to a collection of links called Crafters Helping Minnesota. Meanwhile, at Project Back episodes on Proton, I need to change it, but hopefully this month we will be doing episodes 201 to 250 of this new series, at which point I will give you all a break from this and cycle back maybe to the old ones. But I feel like all of these have been loaded if you want them. Still have to go back to the listener who said she had the episodes I was missing in the new series. I just need World Enough and time right now. Put a lid on it in the tea tastings. I have been enjoying Buttery Shortbread Herbal from Plum Deluxe. This was an unexpected pleasure. I can't really figure out where I got this, if this was in one of the previous advent calendars or what. But it is a marvelous thing. It is honeybush tea, cocoa peel, blackberry leaves, natural flavor. Why this comes out tasting like buttery shortbread, I cannot tell you. But it is a fantastic thing, and I do highly recommend it. As you can tell, it is an herbal, which is lovely. I do not want you sucking up black tea too much, or like me, you may get high as a kite. Now, of course, when you have a good herbal tea, the next thing is bread and butter. And at the top of the show notes, you can see that very thing. And you may be saying, but Gemma, you're keto. Can you eat this stuff? Yes. Because I have the wonderful book by Faith Gorski and Laura Clevenger called Keto Bread. And my beloved husband got me this a few Christmases back, and I sort of hemmed and hawed, and I finally settled down to it. Now, last week I may have mentioned that I was gathering some of the more esoteric ingredients like flaxseed meal and the special stevia glycerite, which is like a syrupy sort of liquid stevia. So I got those things. Really, really nice. And I realized that I wanted to make the quick bread and I wanted to make the pumpkin bread. Turns out they're pretty much the same recipe. That is, if you gather the ingredients for the quick bread, you've got almost everything you need for the pumpkin bread. So you can see them there. On the left is the quick bread in the clear baking pan, loaf pan. On the right is the pumpkin bread. Notice that they're in parchment paper. I was not thrilled when the recipe said to do this. Turns out it's a great idea. Nothing sticks. It lifts right out of the loaf pan. You get a perfectly formed loaf, and cleanup's really a breeze. So I do recommend that you use the parchment paper, which was a new thing on me, and I'm really glad I did. It also serves to wrap your breads. And if you look at the top of the show notes, you will see a slice of the quick bread with butter, and it's fabulous and perfectly keto. When I got my blood done, they did my A1C, and my A1C was great. Which means this stuff did not drive it up, which is really good news. I did limit myself to 1 or 2 slices a day. That pumpkin bread was fabulous. I just could not stop eating it. They both go beautifully with soft butter spread on them and a good herbal tea. But frankly, when I really wanted a treat, yeah, Earl Grey. I will see if I can dig up the recipes and put them in there for you. In the meantime, in the blather, on Saturday, my son wanted to go back to the museum whose name I keep getting wrong, which is LACMA, the LA County Museum of Art. Duh. But it's a modern art museum by and large. And we first went to the Grove, which is about a mile away, and we had a lunch there. And we went early this time, and so we got in the Cheesecake Factory, had much better service. They remembered us, which was even weirder. And so you can see a picture of this sort of pseudo-classical architecture there. That's British 17th century classical pseudo as I know it. Yeah, okay, forgive me. I was just surprised that they were trying so hard to style the architecture like this, so I took a picture of it. At any rate, you can also see at LACMA, there's a picture of this city construction. It was not running. Apparently the cars and the trains go round and round, but it takes up the better part of a large gallery on the ground floor. So I put that up because my son and I both got fascinated with it. Then, of course, we wandered around. It's a fairly eclectic collection. But I, of course, saw the antique dresses, of which they had only a handful. And I got caught up in the fabrics. So at the top, you've got an 1860s gown. And I liked it because when you look at it, you can see the difference in textures really are a point of decoration. And in other words, we don't think of it often this way, but they change texture to make decoration, to make something fancy. So there's the back of the gown, and you can see she's got this lacy, it's not quite a fichu, it's not quite, I guess shawl is the word for it. And at the bottom of the bodice, you can see the ribbon. And I realized for the first time that the background, of course, is silk, the main cloth of the dress. And then the ribbon and the lace make contrasting texture, and it gives a kind of beauty in the back that's quite unique. I mean, on the front, the lace and the ribbon are quite distant from each other, but it enhances the look of the back, and I just found that amazing. So after that, you can see a dress slightly later, about the 1880s. And again, look at the velvet in the pictures against the silk. And it is a very simple dress, but that contrast creates the richness. So it is also a more high fashion gown. And of course, at the very bottom, you get to the very end of the 1800s. And there's for me, the absolute crowning glory. It's just embroidery. That what makes that gown fashionable and couture is the embroidery. So of course, I took a picture of it. And it's wool. And I thought that was wonderful. And that use of wool makes this into a winter gown as opposed to a warmer weather gown. Then in other words, it's not so much the color as it's that wool, that the heavier hand, I guess is the best thing I can think to call it, of that embroidery. It dictates the season. I mean, they wear long sleeves for a lot of the time when they're out in the street. You only have bare arms and shoulders usually at late afternoon events, special high teas or a ball. By the way, the other thing I want to point out, that if you look at the 1860s blue and silver gown, they point out that the owner would replace the bodice with something with longer sleeves that covers the shoulder and neckline for day wear. So it is important to remember that they can disassemble these clothes, and that is how they are maintaining them. They are notorious, compared to our clothing, for needing careful maintenance, but they can build them in pieces, and that does allow for a certain flexibility. The same with the trims. When you take off the shawl and the ribbon on the gown at the very top with the bell hoops, the 1860s gown, you really have a whole new gown that you can redecorate. And they do this kind of thing quite often to recycle old gowns. And this is going on from the Middle Ages forward. We're the ones who have disposable clothing. Meanwhile, on Sunday, of course, there were the vampires. That is, I went to get my blood drawn. I found it really amusing that they put what I call the drama bandage on me, the big red X. I don't know why they do that. They never used to, but they do it now. So I had to keep that on for an hour. I don't know if she thought I would burst like a balloon or what. Underneath it is a Band-Aid, a larger bandage over a cotton swab, okay? And I just took myself on the train because I just needed a quiet day because I had my son with me on Saturday. Sunday I wanted a quiet kind of me day. You know what really happened? I got sushi from the conveyor belt at Kura. That was fun. Then I went down to Starbucks and got coffee. What I learned, I really missed my son. I was lonely. But there I was. Okay, the usual links to the services relating to ICE and to helping our LGBTQIA+ colleagues, and my community resources, and my calendar. Now, Minerva gets the last word. Minerva, well, I tried to train her to jump up on a chair on command to get her treats. She figured it out. Got it right away. Will not do it. She does all sorts of convolutions to get the treats without jumping up, which to me means she knows exactly what I want. Yes, she's lying in my lap being a big furry meatloaf, ignoring me as I record this. She knows exactly what I want. She's choosing not to do it. I find this hilarious. It reminds me of the truth that when you have a dog, particularly a breed like a German Shepherd or a Newfoundland or a Collie, they really want to please you and they really want to cooperate with you. When you have a llama, they do not. They think you're interesting. They know you have the food. They love you in their own way, but they don't see a reason to obey you. And now I am reminded why we used to say that llamas are 200-pound cats in a bigger fur coat. Minerva knows exactly what I want, but she has drawn that line. I find this hilarious. By the way, the only other dog I've known of that would do exactly what Minerva is doing, I used to breed these when I was a teenager, Norwegian elk hounds. And the joke is, with an elk hound, you don't give orders, you negotiate. So, apart from elk hounds, I'm used to dogs that want to learn my orders and want to be rewarded. But let me tell you, having told you about rewards in this strategy, the rewards are not high incentive enough for her to obey this command. So Minerva's last word, nope. I am not following stupid orders. Having said that, let's remember that Minerva does obey me in quite a few ways that make our lives easier, like using her litter box. And this is because Minerva, even if she doesn't want to do commands that seem stupid to her, she still understands that she is a part of our community here in our household. And when we work for the good of the community, we are working for the good of the individual. This is true now more than ever. Having said that, everybody stay safe, take care of each other, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.